This is All About Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is trading at $60,230. Bitcoin is slightly up about 0.1%. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. So looking at our top stories, LA's iconic Staples Center will be renamed Crypto.com Arena. The $700 million 20-year naming deal is one of the biggest in sports history, according to the LA Times. Crypto.com will also be an official partner of the Los Angeles Lakers and Pro Hockey's LA Kings under the agreement. Meanwhile, India will ban the use of cryptocurrency for making payments, but will allow trading of crypto assets. Authorities will also ban active solicitation from crypto firms, including exchanges and platforms, in a crypto regulation bill that's being finalized. Crypto exchanges WazirX and BitBins have paused their ads. The ban shouldn't affect blockchain technology, which has been around for 10 years and can grow without cryptocurrencies, according to the country's central bank. And finally, several folks in the Bitcoin community are headed to the Latin American Bitcoin Conference and the Latin American Bitcoin and Blockchain Conference in El Salvador, including CoinDesk's Elaine Ramirez. Last month, the government of El Salvador added 420 more Bitcoins, bringing its overall treasure chest to about 1,120 Bitcoins. 200 Bitcoin ATMs were installed throughout the country in September when Bitcoin became legal tender, making El Salvador's Bitcoin ATM network the third largest in the world. Joining us now to discuss is Athena Bitcoin CEO Eric Gravengaard. Great to have you here, Eric. Pleasure. So in June, Reuters reported Athena Bitcoin would invest over $1 million to eventually install 1,500 ATMs in El Salvador. How is that goal coming along? What is the scope of Bitcoin Athena's involvement in scaling Bitcoin ATMs in El Salvador?
Yeah, first of all, we're super excited to be part of this project. This country has gone from about 30% banking account adoption, according to the World Bank, to now more than 4 million Salvadoreños have a Chivo wallet where they have a balance in dollars and Bitcoin. And what Athena's role in that has been is, first, you did talk about the ATMs. We've bought and brought in more than 200 ATMs in support of the Chivo project so far. I think there's many more to come. But there's the beautiful blue Chivo machines all over the country that we're super excited to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. What is the state of Bitcoin use in El Salvador based on what you know from these ATMs? Are people mostly inserting more US dollars to buy Bitcoin, or is it mostly the other way around?
So I think that's a great question. I think it speaks to the adoption of Bitcoin here. There was a very angry article in the newspaper just a few days ago saying that less than 1%, about 1% of transactions were done in September in Bitcoin at retailers. And I was like, why are you mad? 1% is amazing. In terms of the ATM usage, sure, we saw long lines at the ATMs initially, people waiting to use them. They mostly were taking money out of the system very early on. I think that's part of the building trust that Athena thinks about. Like, how do we build trust in Bitcoin, which is an alien concept? How do we build trust in an app where most people have never seen a bank account balance before? How do we build trust in that? And then how do we build trust in sort of Athena as a brand? More money came into the system later on. And so now we have a very balanced system of money going in, money going out. Whereas, initially it was mostly money out. Some of the lines have subsided, but there's still sometimes long lines because the Bitcoin ATMs are so popular.
Are we seeing such long lines because there aren't enough ATMs, and there just needs to be more infrastructure to be built?
I think there's more infrastructure to be brought in and built here. We're 2 months into this grand experiment of what does it mean to have Bitcoin as legal tender in the country. And I think we'll start to see, more ways of using the Bitcoin here as more and more retailers start to adopt it. And we're just super excited to be part of that growth But I think, there's fewer lines. People are, less nervous, if you will, about what does it mean to have a Bitcoin balance? Is it money? Is my dollar balance in Chivo money? If I have a wallet from somewhere else, how can I convert this into something that's usable? And I think that's changing people's perceptions of what it means to have Bitcoin. And I think that's sort of why the ATMs don't have long lines anymore.
Well, certainly education is a key part of it because, we played some video earlier on. We saw some folks burning Bitcoin ATMs, and that garnered a lot of press around the world. What is the attitude toward Bitcoin, especially, given the protests? A lot of Nayib Bukele said it was, or folks said that it was mainly a protest against Nayib Bukele and the president of El Salvador and his government. But what was your reaction when you saw that?
I mean, first of all, it was a tragedy for the people that wanted to use the machine. And my heart goes out to them because for many people in El Salvador, the minimum wage is about $300 per month. And so if you are carrying around a balance in your Bitcoin wallet, whether it's a Chivo wallet or someone else's wallet, and you want to turn that into money, possibly to buy goods at a store that doesn't accept Bitcoin yet, it was a tragedy when that machine burned because the $20 that you were going to take out of the machine, all of a sudden you couldn't use. But I think, more broadly, people here are excited for the future. I've traveled a lot throughout Latin America, and this country is very excited about its future. And I think, that's what's drawing people to El Salvador right now. The plane from Miami to El Salvador, it's full. First class is full of business people looking to do deals, looking to invest in the country. And I think that's what's really exciting for us.
And there's a huge conference going on. But
and there's a huge conference this week.
Yeah. So there were, especially in the beginning of the rollout of the Bitcoin law, there were a lot of reported problems with the ATMs, problems accessing the Chivo wallet, withdrawing money from the ATM, irregularities with transactions. And some people complain about high ATM fees. Has that been addressed? And if so, how so?
The Chivo machines are free. So I don't know who was complaining about high fees because free is a pretty low fee to complain about. And so, I would say to the detractors, come to El Salvador, go use one of our machines. There's a great one at the airport. There's one at the mall next door. Have there been problems? Sure. I'll admit to there being problems. But, I think the system is working really well right now. And we're seeing a lot of happy people using the Bitcoin ATMs.
It's all anecdotal evidence. There are folks on Twitter saying, "Oh, I put in $50 and it took $3 away in my transaction," or something like that. Or I put in some money and it didn't give me whatever Bitcoin I was owed, or something down those lines. We can't confirm these reports, but has there been any attempt to quantify these complaints? I know that the Court of Account, El Salvador's Court of Account, is investigating complaints in part about the Bitcoin ATMs and their construction and how they're linked to the government-run Chivo wallet.
I don't know anything about those, nor am I going to comment on that. We do know that people use the ATMs every day. There's thousands upon thousands of successful transactions every day. Was there someone angry on Twitter? Absolutely. There was someone angry on Twitter.
All right. Is there, this was a huge task, monumental to deal with in the first place, building out El Salvador's digital payments infrastructure. Was there ever any concern that, that this would be a huge job to handle, and concern about, the challenges ahead and if those challenges remain?
I think if you're not ready to, take on challenges, then why are you in the Bitcoin world? Bitcoin is hated by almost every institution that there is. The World Bank does not like Bitcoin. The IMF does not like Bitcoin. Steve Hanke does not like Bitcoin. The list of haters for Bitcoin is extremely long. So if you're not interested in taking on challenges and things that might be perceived as hard, then you probably shouldn't be in the Bitcoin business.
Is there any concern with Athena Bitcoin that they could lose the contracts in El Salvador or potentially be replaced?
I think that's a concern of every business. We're excited to be here. We're proud of what this country has done. They're the first to bring the two best forms of money to their people. The U.S. dollar has been the currency here for 20 years. Bitcoin joined it this year. So those the best two forms of money. And I think Bitcoiners might argue as to which form of money is better. But those are the two best forms of money, and this country has it. So, we're excited to be a part of that.
All right, Eric, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Athena Bitcoin CEO Eric Gravengaard. Coming up, BTC price analysis with CoinDesk's Galen Moore.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Bitcoin nursing a weekly price drop of 9% as BTC's social metrics indicate the retail crowd is high on hopium, crypto slang for hopes of a quick recovery and a continued bull run. However, past data shows pullbacks or downtrends typically end when social chatter leans bearish. Data tracked by blockchain analytics platform Sentiment shows buy the dip mentions on social media as circled here in this chart, hitting the highest level since September 7th when Bitcoin crashed by 11%. Sentiment cautioning it may be a sign that Bitcoin has yet to find a bottom, while buy the dip chatter on social media surged after the September 7th slide to $43,000. Bitcoin bottomed out below $40,000 2 weeks later. A similar pattern was seen several times in May and June. If history is a guide, writes CoinDesk's Amkar Gabole, Bitcoin is unlikely to chart a recovery to recent highs near $69,000. The U.S. dollar's ongoing rally and renewed uncertainty about crypto taxation in the United States may keep Bitcoin buyers at bay for some time. That said, the big picture remains constructive with the blockchain data leaning bullish. Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin price and more is CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Hello there, Galen. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin. We're seeing a bit of a pullback, a bit of a pause. Tell me about some of the macro factors that may be impacting the price.
I think the most salient one that jumps out this week, Christine, is the dollar index, a strong dollar. You look at the dollar index going up a full point, and it kind of coincides with Bitcoin price going down starting on Monday. There are a number of other things happening on the week: China enforcement, India regulatory moves, some disappointment over Taproot. That last one in particular, I think, is
disappointment over Taproot. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, I mean, Taproot's very interesting, and we could talk about it. But
what do you mean disappointment over Taproot? I mean, I saw a lot of celebrations over the weekend, so
I've seen a mix, I guess. I think there's a sense of maybe like sort of some sense of, okay, this isn't going to necessarily, say, for example, bring DeFi onto Bitcoin. And if you sort of, if that was something that you were banking on, then I think you will be disappointed. Look, I think, any notion that is sort of a sag with Taproot is kind of predicated on the notion that the market actually understands what Taproot can do for Bitcoin in the first place. And I think there's too much complexity and misinformation to think of it that way. Right. I think, look, most of the other things we saw that were Bitcoin specific kind of happened after the price move began. So, it does seem like a kind of a strong dollar narrative, But, look, backing out last week, we saw a day in which Bitcoin seemed to move with gold against the stock market, running up alongside the inflation consumer price index news, before falling back as the narrative switched to money supply concerns. This week, Bitcoin seems to be moving with the dollar again. I mean, against the dollar again, but also, on its own beat with regards to stock and gold. Both stocks and gold are both nearly flat for the week so far. And, Bitcoin's down, started the day down 6.25%.
A bit now.
Yeah.
Out of today's news, we saw that Crypto.com and that $700 deal with the Staples Center, a huge deal. I see the Matt Damon Crypto.com ads everywhere. It seems like you can't escape a crypto ad while walking on the street in New York, at least. Meanwhile, India has huge headwinds. I mean, the crypto exchanges there are actually taking their ads off the air. And in China, there's a bit more enforcement regulatory-wise where crypto exchanges and trading platforms and mining are concerned. Maybe you could dive into, weigh in on that kind of that very different approach to how different countries are accepting crypto exchanges, Bitcoin, and the industry.
Yeah,
at large.
look, I think regulatory hostility in China and India has got to be something that the market understands pretty well at this point. I feel like the news out of India was actually pretty positive. You have a clear path for speculative use of Bitcoin, if not payments. I feel like that should be a green light for investors who are thinking about speculative adoption in the BRICS. So I'm not sure I see a huge problem there. Mm-hmm. Having to cut back the ads is probably puts the brakes on something, but at the same time, you sort of you no longer have this environment where there's a question about whether you're going to have
just
to put the
another
brakes on
quick point is the differences among Twitter C-suite executives. Twitter's CFO in Asia is saying that, no, we're not going to have a Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but I mean, Jack Dorsey's all about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, again, that comes after the downturn. And I mean, we're really, I think we are in a macro environment with Bitcoin. The problem is it's this kind of unusually sensitive and fickle barometer, right? It's a consensus on fundamental metrics and macro effects has yet to emerge. So one week you've got investors moving the market on a global risk on narrative. The next, it's another group of investors, or perhaps the same group, moving it on an inflation narrative. The following week, it's a strong dollar narrative that's pushing the price. I think we're in a time where crisis is threatening from all sides. Military tension in China, between China and Taiwan, military tension at the EU border, Chinese property marketing crisis. Iran is 1 month away from a nuclear weapon. Afghanistan is destabilized. The COVID threat is on the rise again globally. So look, this barometer function,
the world's on fire, Galen.
The world is like kind of potentially about to be on fire in some ways, it seems. And I think this kind of moving with the wind, one wind 1 week, another wind another week, is kind of maybe in a way a useful function of Bitcoin. It's not this, Bitcoin is this risk on asset and we can read it that way, or Bitcoin is this inflation hedge and we can read it that way. It's a different narrative every week, and it kind of tends to shift with whatever the predominant narrative in the market is.
Or it could be just five whales who decide to, sell off some Bitcoin. But Galen, we got to end it there. We got to end it there. But thank you for joining us. That was CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. And that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. We'll do it all over again tomorrow at 3 p.m. in New York. Also join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for First Mover. You're watching CoinDesk TV.